Hello, Serious Survivor here. We're going to discuss the Afghanistan-China connection coming up. But first, a quick word from our sponsors. Now, inflation isn't something we heard about for a while, is it? By last month, the inflation rate in the U.S. had the highest rise for 29 years. You heard that right, 29 years, 1992. That's a big problem for all of us with food and gas and everything else going up, but it's terrible if you're planning on retiring anytime soon. You need to put up an inflation dam to stop it from wiping out the value of your savings and investments. It's not too late. Noble Gold specializes in retirement planning and IRAs, so their team of experts is your first stop, and they make it so easy to do so. This month they're offering a 1-ounce American Eagle solid silver proof coin with every IRA or 401k taken out. Not many people can relax when inflation is this high, but like thousands of others with Noble Gold, you'll be okay. Visit our website at noblegoldinvestments.com. That's noblegoldinvestments.com. Top foreign policy experts warn that China is looking to profit from what critics are calling the U.S. disorganized and inept withdrawal from Afghanistan. This is a, quote, opportunity to further their bid to destabilize U.S. alliances, not just in the Indo-Pacific, but in the Middle East. Eric Brown, a senior fellow specializing in Asian and Middle East affairs at the Hudson Institute, stated, further to that, I think they are going to use the perception of American unreliability, thanks to this messy and disgraceful withdrawal, to press its influence. It's going to try and take advantage of this situation, he said, referring to the People's Republic of China. Chinese state-controlled media has ramped up the critical rhetoric surrounding the Taliban's lightning takeover of Afghanistan following the withdrawal of U.S. and NATO forces. The Global Times, a tabloid supported by the CCP or Chinese Communist Party, called the coup a U.S. humiliation and claimed it showed the U.S. cannot win a war anymore. This platform also suggested that nations like Taiwan cannot expect to receive full backing of the U.S. despite American financial and military assistance awarded to Taipei. China, which contests Taiwan as part of its territory under the One China policy, has engaged in increased military activity with the U.S. in the South China Sea. The Global Times wrote, "The U.S. just showed the world that it's unable or unwilling to confront a small adversary in Afghanistan with very basic weapons. So in the future, when it urges its allies to challenge major powers like China and Russia, very few would follow." Just 2 days after the capital of Afghanistan fell to the Taliban, China launched assault drills just off the southern coast of Taiwan with warships and fighter jets. The People's Liberation Army claimed the drills were necessary to protect national sovereignty. But senior fellow at the American Enterprise, AEI, Zach Cooper, who studies U.S. strategy in Asia, stated, "It is in Chinese government's interest to try and convince Americans that China is going to press ahead on Taiwan. I think we have to avoid falling for some of that Chinese propaganda," he added. "There's a reason that China today is not invading Taiwan, and that's because they are concerned about their ability to carry off invasion at an acceptable cost. And I don't think what's happened in Afghanistan fundamentally changes that decision." But addressing Afghanistan, he stated, there are real opportunities for China here. China has been very deeply engaged with Pakistan through the Belt and Road Initiative, and I think we'll see the possibility of more Belt and Road investment into Afghanistan. The Belt and Road Initiative is a global scheme aimed at bolstering China's economic prowess through trade routes across Africa, Asia, and Europe. Pakistan entered into an agreement with China more than 6 years ago as part of the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, or CPEC, which would make trade cheaper and more efficient through modernizing transportation networks and port connectivity. China met with Taliban leaders last month after the insurgent group had already started making aggressive advances across Afghanistan. Chinese foreign minister stated at the time that he told Taliban leaders he expected them to play an important role and understand the direction that things were likely to go in Afghanistan. Cooper stated, "I think it's a clear sign that the Chinese were trying to lean pretty far forward in terms of engaging the Taliban. They're trying to make sure that they can have as much influence as possible. They have a long-term interest. Obviously, it ties very much to the geopolitical interest of Pakistan. The Belt Road Initiative, known in Chinese and formally in English as the One Belt, One Road Initiative, or OBOR for short, is a global infrastructure development strategy adopted by the Chinese government in 2013 to invest in nearly 70 countries and international organizations. It is considered a centerpiece of CCP, General Secretary, and Chinese leader Xi Jinping's foreign policy, who originally announced the strategy as the Silk Road Economic Belt during an official visit to Kazakhstan in September of 2013. Belt is short for the Silk Road Economic Belt, referring to the proposed overland routes for road and rail transportation through landlocked Central Asia and along the famous historical trade routes of Western regions, whereas road is short for the 21st century maritime Silk Road, referring to the Indo-Pacific sea routes through Southeast Asia to South Asia, the Middle East, and Africa. Examples of Belt and Road Initiative and infrastructure investments includes ports, skyscrapers, railroads, roads, airports, dams, and railroad tunnels. The initiative was incorporated into the Constitution of China in 2017. The Chinese government calls the initiative a bid to enhance regional connectivity and embrace a brighter future. The project has a target completion date of 2049, which will coincide with the centennial anniversary of the People's Republic of China's founding. Some observers and skeptics, mainly from non-participant countries, including the United States, interpret it as a plan for a Sinocentric international trade road. Sinocentric refers to the ideologically that China is the cultural, political, or economic center of the world. In response, the United States, Japan, and Australia had formed a counter-initiative called the Blue Dot Network in 2019. A 2019 study conducted by global economic consultants CEBR forecasted that the BRI was likely to boost world GDP by $7.1 trillion per year by 2040. China has put in place this type of initiative, as we know, from 2013, so it's been in place for 7 years. And if we think back over the last few years and think of all the ghost cities that we saw so much about a few years back, where China was building large cities all in different locations throughout the world, mostly in third world countries, that are completely uninhabited. These cities, complete with apartment buildings, buildings for businesses, infrastructure, other things, are in place in different areas of the world with no inhabitants. So this shows that the expansion of China has been planned for a very long time. With the Belt Road Initiative, this isn't just about building infrastructure in other countries. This is about building influence in other countries. When you take a third world country and a country like China moves in, invests billions of dollars into their economy, builds their roads, builds their ports, builds their buildings, and helps them develop a functional economic system, then they're going to be not just indebted to China, but basically in servitude to China at that point. A lot of these countries may not realize it because the thought of improving their economy outweighs the thought of being in servitude to a country like China. But we're going to see that China is forcing basically global domination or regional domination throughout Africa and Asia. And what we see from our current administration is there is nothing in place to even slow this down or stop it. And what can you really do? How do you compete with a country that's, in the eyes of these third world countries, are giving them a better way of life? They're giving them more money to work with, better roads to drive on, better infrastructure, healthcare, and all this. By building up these smaller countries, they're creating alliances that basically cannot be broken because these countries will be so dependent on China at that point, they have no recourse other than to ally with China, no matter what the situation may be. Even though the target date is 2049, we see this happening at a much faster rate than that. And it's really obvious that what China's doing here, and they're trying to expand their influence basically worldwide. They started in the South Pacific and the South Asia region and expanding throughout Asia and into Africa and the Middle East. A country as rich as China and that controls as much of the global market as China does can easily influence these smaller countries. And by turning these smaller countries basically against the U.S. and our allies, then we're seeing that China is creating basically a one world government, if you will. They're basically attempting to take over the world one small country at a time, and they're doing this financially instead of militarily. And that's the concerning thing, is because by making countries reliant on China's financial assistance, then these countries will be reluctant to not side with China when things do go bad. So just wanted to talk a little bit about that today. Hope the video is informative. Thanks a lot for watching. God bless. And for now, Serious Survivor out.